Gamecube is a terrific system, and if you haven't played one recently, there is one glaring issue you run into: hooking it up to a modern TV. Most people will have a composite cable with their Gamecube, the red, white, and yellow connector, and while this worked fine on older CRT-based TVs, it looks worse on today's modern flat screens. Now, there is an official component cable which will give you a better picture, but that cable runs hundreds of dollars on eBay. In the last few years, better alternatives have popped up. In today's video, I'm going to be testing out the Kaico HDMI adapter. For about $80 on Amazon, you can make this one-time investment for your Gamecube. But is this adapter going to work for everyone? Let's take a closer look. Here is a look at the product from their website. I will drop a link in the description below if you want to check it out. You can see what comes in the box. It is always good to see an HDMI cable included just in case you don't have one already. Further down on the page is the description, and then there's a section for additional information which just has the weight of the device. Now there are two things of note in this description. First, you need to make sure that your Gamecube has a digital port on it. This is the model DOL001. Now you may see Gamecubes listed on eBay that say they were model 001, but unless you can confirm it with pictures, I'd be hesitant to pick one up. I've seen Gamecubes listed as DOL001, but in the pictures you can clearly see that there's not a digital port. If you're unsure, you can message the seller and see if they can add a picture of the back of the console. The second point in the description that I want to point out is it says it uses GC Video 3.0D. If you are not familiar with GC Video, I've put a link in the description below. Their GitHub page describes it as a small series of FPGA boards and VHDL projects capable of converting the Gamecube's digital port signals to standard video signals without using the custom chip in the original component cable. Here is a quick look at the release notes. One thing of importance to notice is that version 3.0, there was a new feature to update the firmware in the system. So if you order one and it doesn't have a minimum of version 3.0 on it, the only way you will be able to update it is with a special flasher tool, which runs around $80. I will list that again in the description, so if you want to pick one up, you can find one. There's also a nice guide on how to do that, and I will link that as well. This is a closer look at the device that I received. The black dot in the upper left-hand corner is where the power LED will shine through. This is the back of it. And on the back side where the HDMI connects, you'll see the left side has a black dot. That's the IR receiver. I did have a little trouble getting the remote to pick up. You may want to set the Gamecube in kind of catty-cornered so this gets a little more light. This is the end that goes into the Gamecube. This is the remote that comes with it. The green button brings up the menu and also works kind of like an enter button on the menu items. The exit button is a quick way to exit out of the menu, and then of course you have the navigational buttons. This is the back of it, not much to that. The battery is a CR2025, which is fairly common. And this is the manual that came with it, standard international type manual where you have basically just a few pages of English and a few pages of each other language. So not a whole lot to that. It basically just tells you how to hook it up and gives you a little description of what the device is. I do like the way this is constructed. It has a nice metal outside, and the connector that goes into the Gamecube is metal as well. It has nice thick plastic around the pins. Some of the first devices of this type that came out, they were loose and would have some of the pins short out and could fry a Gamecube or fry the adapter or both. So I do like the solid construction of this and how it's made. When you connect the device to the back of the Gamecube, you're going to want to hold the Gamecube still as you put it in, because it kind of has a snap as it goes in, which is great. You don't have to worry about it falling out. Same thing with the HDMI cable. Also, make sure you have the Gamecube off when you're doing this, just in case it slips sideways. You wouldn't want to take the chance of shorting any pins out to be on the safe side. Here is some gameplay footage that I captured. I think the quality turned out pretty well. It actually looked a little better on my TV than it did on the capture card. There was one issue in the menu I'll show you later that I had to adjust to improve that. But I'm capturing this with no audio because I didn't want to take a chance of copyright striking. But the audio was fine too, nice and clean and clear. This definitely looked and sounded a lot better than it does from the composite cable. The motion's nice and clear, didn't blur. The responsiveness was great. There was no latency that I could detect. So overall, I was pleased. To give a little contrast of different art style, here's Tales of Symphonia. I think the quality still looks really great. Go in the menus here, you can see the text is very easy to read. I think overall this game looked great. Here's a closer look at the menu system. There's many different settings you can put in here. One is the line doubler. One thing I noticed with the line doubler, I would see the screen kind of look like it was shifting up and down really fast. That's the only way I can explain it, like 1 pixel at a time, an upshift and a downshift, probably with every frame. I don't know if that was my TV causing that, or if it's an issue with the device. I did not notice it on any of the captures I had, so it may have something to do with the interaction between my TV. But at any rate, when I turned line doubler off, I didn't have any of those issues. Now, you may need to have line doubler on if your TV doesn't support some lower resolutions, but mine looked a whole lot better when I turned that off. There's also settings to adjust for the on-screen display. You can change the color and the transparency. The picture settings that are in here are fairly simple. It just has the brightness, contrast, saturation, and then you can reset it back if you've played with that. Under the other settings, there's different settings in here for the RGB limited range, allowing 480p mode. Most of these you can just kind of play with to see if it makes it look better for your TV. I didn't notice a whole lot of difference, so I just left all these on the defaults. And then under the view all modes, you can go in there and adjust the line doubling and other settings for each individual output. Something to note too, when you're looking at the screen here, at the bottom right, you'll see input and output. That'll let you know what is coming into the device and then back and then out of the device to your TV. So the input right now is telling me that this game is running 640 by 480 interlaced at 60 frames per second, but it's outputting to the TV at 720 by 480. Now if you make any settings, make sure you go down to the store settings at the end. Otherwise the settings you've made won't save, so when you turn the Gamecube off and back on, those settings will be gone. And then under the About, this is what I want to spend a little more time talking about. If you'll notice, it says this version is 2.4D. If you'll remember from the start of the video, the GC video firmware needs to be 3.0 in order to update it. I ordered this device in January 2021, which really surprised me that it came with version 2.4D, which was the last version they released before releasing a version that could be updated. So in other words, I can't update this one to the latest firmware. Overall, I'm not too upset about that because I think the quality has still been pretty good, but it is kind of a bummer that if there's some new features, I won't be able to get those unless I want to pay for an extra device to flash the chip with. And for fun, I thought I would try a few Game Boy Advanced games. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Game Boy Color games to test, but this is my copy of the Japanese version of Zelda for the Game Boy. I thought the quality looked great. It's kind of a nice way to play it. You've got the features of the Game Boy player to play with. And overall, I was pleased with the quality. Again, very responsive. It didn't have any issue. Here's a Game Boy Advanced game, Final Fantasy. Overall, I was very pleased with the quality of these too. I didn't have any problem with any latency of input. Colors looked good. The screen looked nice and clean. Overall, I was happy with this as well. I did, however, have one issue with this. For some reason, my TV wanted to stretch the screen out and wouldn't automatically adjust. So I had to go into the menus here of the device and adjust the display as 16:9 and turn that off. Once I turned that off, my TV detected properly that it was a 4:3 ratio and adjusted the screen. Your TV may vary. You may have to manually change some settings on your TV to get the aspect ratio correct, but otherwise, everything else displayed fine. I hope you have found this video informative. Be sure to check out the links in the description if you would like to know more. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to subscribe. I've just started making videos, so if you have any questions about this adapter that I may have missed, leave a comment and I'd be happy to answer it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.